Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design.tv, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and on this week's edition, we're going to be covering a couple random things. So if my crew chief of Colonel Sanders is ready and my pit crew of Dwight Schrute and Little Whitey are throwing the wheels on, and Jesus is about to take the wheel from my hands, let's get into it. Well, last week we finished our series on series graphics, and if you remember, the first week we talked about the why of series graphics and got a grasping of making sure that we're making series graphics that really are meaningful and aren't just cool graphics to have on the screen. And then the second week we actually jumped inside Illustrator and Photoshop and created those graphics, and then the third week we animated that graphic inside After Effects, and then the fourth week we made a looping worship background that went along with it. And so we have this nice full package that we can use, and so hopefully that was a good starter for you, and in the future we're going to go through more detailed examples of all of those different things. So that was just kind of our starter, our first base of all of that process. But the other thing you might have noticed from last week and maybe even the week before is that we said the show is going to release on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. And I have a high level of excellence that I try to meet, and well, we didn't meet that. And part of the reason we didn't meet it is because After Effects really didn't like us this past weekend. We had a lot of problems with it. And we finally figured out the issue, kind of. We really still don't know exactly what went wrong, but we fixed it and got the show rendered out, compressed it down into the different formats, and then FTP didn't like us. And we go to transfer the files up to the server, and they kept quitting on us. I watched the transfer die on me more than twice at 100%. It was finishing the file, and then it closed the program out, or the connection was lost, and I reconnected to the server, and it showed that it had 0 bytes. And so I had spent an hour uploading this file and all of this stuff. So it was very stressful and very like, man, I really want to get this content out there so that we can help you guys and so that you guys can have these resources for your church. And part of all of this is I know it might sound a little overboard to some of you, but for me, I really feel like some of this is spiritual warfare, because I've been getting comments every single week of people that it's been really helping out in their churches, and I know that that God's going to use this resource, and that's been my prayer the whole time, is that God's really going to use this resource and use this show to help you guys out. And so if you guys could just be praying for me and Adam and for the show that it wouldn't be attacked and we would be able to continue doing this without some of these crazy glitches. So just keep that one in the back of your minds, and when you think about it or when you watch the show, just I'd really appreciate that. But from all of that, I learned a couple things about FileZilla and how to get those files FTP'd up to the server. So we're going to jump inside FileZilla, and I'm just going to show you a quick tip inside there. So when all these problems were arising, I called up Media Temple, my favorite hosting company, and I called them. And that's one of the reasons why they're my favorite hosting companies, because I can get on the phone and call technical support. And they suggested to me to do a couple things inside my FTP program that would hopefully circumvent the problem. You cannot do this inside Fire FTP, unfortunately, but fortunately FileZilla is a free download for Mac or PC, so you can go and download that from the website and get this. So if we head inside FileZilla, we're going to go open Site Manager, and we're just going to do a new site, and you type in whatever host and that kind of deal. But the most important part, which I never had messed with before, is instead of a file transfer protocol, FTP, we're going to do a SFTP, which is an SSH file transfer protocol. And after this had worked for me and I successfully uploaded the episode, I went to Wikipedia and looked up what SFTP was, and I got a really long explanation that I didn't totally understand. The couple things I understood is it goes over port 22, it uses SSH, and it's secure, and it works really well for large file sizes. So that's what I know about it. If you know more, send me an email and explain to me how this magical SFTP works. Yeah, because I would love to know exactly what it's doing better than regular FTP. But all I know is it worked, and it worked well, and I didn't have to worry about it. So I'm going to continue to use SFTP to upload all the new episodes so that I don't have to worry about these problems anymore. So that's just our quick tip for FileZilla today. Well, kind of going along with our series on series graphics tutorials, I wanted to talk about run sheets real quick. Some of you might call them service orders, we call them run sheets, and basically it's a layout of what goes on and when and who's in charge of it and all of the little different logistics, because now that we've created all of our graphics for our Sunday morning gathering or service, now we actually need to know where those go in place and who's running them and what's going to go on with them. So here's one of our run sheets, and at the top is the name of our series, and we're in a passages series, week 2, and you can see we have a couple different columns here. We have the time of when the element starts, and we actually have 2 different times for our 2 different gatherings, and then the length of that element, what the element actually is, the person who's in charge of it, what the sound guy is in charge of doing during that element, what the lights need to be like, and just some extra notes. So I'll just kind of walk you through a couple elements here. Like, we start with a countdown, and during the countdown we actually have the band just doing a prelude or a little jam session, and so the person who's in charge of that is Justin, our worship guy, and the sound is going to be the band, which the sound guy knows is I got to have the band's mics on, and the lights are going to be the house. The house is down and the stage is up. Now, our lighting scheme for our church is pretty limited because, well, we're in a cafeteria and we have, halogen room lights and then just some cans by the stage. So it's either house up or down or stage up and down. It's pretty limited. So yours might be a lot different as far as lighting cues go. So you might want to have a little more space for that area. And then we don't have any notes for that. But then, you move along and, worship through music, and we have the songs listed here and the same person who's in charge. And then we move down here, and during announcements, you can see we have Steve Thompson is in charge of doing announcements, and he's going to use the handheld mic, so the sound guy knows that that's going to be there. And then during Life Together, you'll see that it says media under person. And media means that the person who's actually running media is in charge of whatever's going on during that time, because he's going to make sure that there's music playing through iTunes for background music. And Life Together, I didn't mention earlier, is just kind of this hangout time we do during the middle of the gathering where we grab coffee and get to know each other, and we do like giving and like sign-ups and that kind of stuff during this time, usually in the middle of the gathering. And so we like to have music on in the background, and then the media is also in charge of it because they're going to run the background, the announcement loop. And so all the different announcements of things that are going on, he's going to make sure that's running. And you can see under the notes column that it says run announcement loop. And then you come down a little further and you see we have our teaching and that we're going to use the lav mic. And then in the notes column, it says to start recording. So all of this is pretty straightforward, but this comes in handy big time because this puts everyone on the same page of what's supposed to go on during the gathering. Now, these times of how long an element should go sometimes fluctuate, but this is where we kind of want things to be at. You can see down here at the bottom that we have an area for announcements. I actually write in all of the different announcements that we want that person to talk about. And then back up at the top, we have the date of this gathering, and I have an area so that I can write down the count of how many people are there for our filing so that all of this is on one piece of paper. And the really cool thing about having run sheets as well is, like when our worship guy came, he was wondering what songs we normally did and have done in the past. And I just went through and I printed out all of our run sheets because they had exactly every song that we'd ever played and where it fit into the gathering. So these are a really great record for you of what went on during gatherings and services for you in the past. So I would encourage you to run over to the website, or walk if you want to, and download this Word document and put it into good use in your church because I know it's going to benefit you guys. Well, we want to say thank you to our sponsor of worshiphousemedia.com, resources for the creative church. Head over to their website, check out this new mini movie from Calvary Resources called Clean Slate, where they use a old Etch-a-Sketch kind of deal. It's a really cool illustration that they do during this video. Also, go check out their podcast. On the latest episode, they sat down with Rob Thomas, the founder of RT Media Group, which is the overarching group of Collide Magazine, Echo Conference, Worship House Media, and Igniter Media. So check out that podcast. It's a really cool behind the scenes look of how they've gone throughout the year. So it was really fun. They do a little walk down memory lane through photos. So check out worshiphousemedia.com. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. Head over to the website, download all the resources from this week, as well as look at last week's link and or episode on the webpage, and you can download high-res versions of that growth worship background. If you don't have After Effects, you can just go download those video files, because I made those available for you guys. And there's a lot of great resources scattered throughout the different episodes, so go get those if you haven't got them already. While you're there, leave a comment on the message board, and if you guys ever see a question that somebody's asking that you know the answer to, by all means answer and help out your fellow viewers. Also, you can send an email to me, brad@ChurchMediaDesign.tv. Send in comments and questions. I would love to know what you guys think about the show, or how we can make it better or more applicable to your church. And the last random one is head over to absolutemachines.com. Now, Absolute's a vodka, and whatever we think about alcohol in the church, that's up to you guys. I'm not getting into that discussion, but this is a really cool website. And if you've ever seen Animusic on PBS, they took this idea of machines that play musical instruments and brought it to life. And it's really, really cool. There's a machine in New York City, and you go on through a flash interface and you play some notes on your keyboard, and then this machine in New York City plays those notes on a xylophone by throwing balls on it. So it's really cool. I would highly recommend you guys heading over to their website and checking it out. It's just a really cool time. You play for like 7 seconds and play some different notes, and then it takes what you played and translate that into a longer song, and at the end you can actually have that video sent to you. So head over to absolutemachines.com and check that out. Also, at ChurchMediaDesign.tv, you can sign up for our Facebook fan page. You can find a link for that fan page on there, so that you can stay in contact with the group of us on Facebook if that's part of your social networking universe. So again, I'm Brad Zimmerman. That's my pit crew, and we're saying see you later.